Yes, I am carrying 25 books right now! Oh my god. My name is Sarah and today I'm going to be sharing 25 amazing Halloween book recommendations. As if you didn't have enough on your TBR already, let me add 25 more books for you. We all know the spooky season is my absolute favorite time of the year, so I'm so excited to recommend 25 creepy and spooky books for you. Alright, the first book I have to recommend is City of Ghosts by Queen Fee herself. This is her middle grade series, City of Ghosts. I absolutely love these books. The first one takes place in Edinburgh and it's about a girl who has ghosts as her best friend and her parents are making this TV show about ghosts. It is freaking incredible. It's a little bit spooky but really atmospheric and I highly recommend it. That was the first one. I'm already puffed. The next book I have to recommend is Small Spaces by Sarah Epstein. This is a Love Us YA novel and it is easily one of the creepiest things I've ever read. Oh my god, you're gonna want to keep the lights on when you read this one because it will creep you the heck out. Basically about this girl who had an imaginary friend when she was younger, and then when she's a teenager, her imaginary friend comes back. It is so creepy, oh my god. Next up I have The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. You wouldn't expect this one as spooky judging from the title and the glorious front cover, but oh my gosh, it definitely is. If you like sci-fi and books set in space, this is definitely a book for you. It's about this girl who's the only surviving member of her crew out in space, and then she starts talking to a neighboring ship and kind of becoming really close friends with the person on board. Except, is this person really who they say they are? Loved it! The next book I have to share with you is Slasher Girls and Monster Boys, which is a creepy as heck anthology with so many amazing contributing authors. We have contributing authors like Leigh Bardugo and Jay Kristoff and Neverend Summer. Oh my god. All of these stories are super creepy. I loved every single one of them. They're also different as well, and I feel like you get that a lot in anthologies. But if you're a fan of short stories and you want something to creep you out but you don't want to commit to a full novel, this is the book for you. Next up is Highway Buddies by Alison Evans. This is also a Love Us YA novel. It was released earlier this year and it's about zombies and it's queer and it just has the best friendship dynamics I've ever read. Seriously, what if the zombie apocalypse was in Melbourne? What would you do? This book answers your questions. It's also surprisingly funny. Even when zombies are like eating people and running at you, Alison just has this incredible humor and I absolutely love their writing. Read this one with the lights on as well because it's pretty spooky in parts. Next I've got Gap Year in Ghost Town and Graveyard Shift in Ghost Town, written by Michael Pryor. Another Love Us YA series. Honestly, Aussie writers are just amazing at writing horror and spooky novels. Gap Year in Ghost Town is about a boy named Anton who lives in Melbourne and his family has a ghost hunting business. He has to learn how to do the ghost hunting on his gap year and it's freaking incredible and it's really funny. I love the friendship dynamics in these books. They're so quick to read and fun and funny and they're set in Melbourne and I just love books I can relate to in that way. Next up is Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. This is the scariest book I've ever read and I know that all of these books have creeped me out, but this one definitely takes the cake. Seriously, I was just reading this book on the couch at like 11 p.m. and I was so scared and there was like no one else in the house and all the lights were off and I was just terrified, like oh my god, like someone is outside my house and they're gonna murder me. This is a book about a girl named Sarah whose sister went missing a year ago and only Sarah thinks she knows where she is. So she and her friends go down this road that's a little bit haunted and a little bit creepy. Actually, that is a lot creepy, like who am I kidding? They have to get past a series of like demons and ghosts and other terrifying figures to try and find this girl. If you think you can handle this horror, definitely pick up this book. Otherwise, read it with all of the lights on while there's other people in your house. You'll be fine. My next recommendation is Toil and Trouble, which is another anthology perfect for Halloween. This is 15 Tales of Women and Witchcraft and it is just amazing! Seriously, if you love witches like I do and you love short stories, this is a must read. All of these stories are beautiful and queer and I love all the women in this novel. It's amazing how all of these stories can be so different as well. Like even though they're all focused around witchcraft and everything, there are definitely some that are more creepy and some that are more like contemporary than others. Seriously, this is a book for everyone. If you love witches or you loved These Witches Don't Burn, which is another recent release, you should definitely pick this one up. Speaking of witches, I also have These Witches Don't Burn, which is an amazing queer witchy book that I just read and I absolutely loved it. This is Definitely more of a contemporary witchy story than one might think when thinking about witches, which I really loved because I loved seeing this real world setting that I could so easily relate to, but there are witches and covens and creepy things going on. Also, one of my favorite things about this book was that it centered around a female-female relationship and romance, and there are a ton of queer characters, and it was just so beautiful to read. This book is about a girl named Hannah who lives in Salem, and one day she sees this like blood ritual going on, and she thinks that there's an evil blood witch in town, and she has to figure out who it is before they create some real damage. Highly recommend. The next book I have is The Dreadful Tale of Prosper, written by Alexandra Bracken. This is such an adorable middle grade book about a boy named Prosper whose great something grandparent made a deal with a demon, and now Prosper, this boy, has a demon living inside of him. Prosper has to figure out a way how to get the demon out before he turns a certain age, and he like dies. This book was so much fun. It gave me all the Halloween vibes and feels, and I absolutely loved it. I really need to read book 2 because I adored this one, but you should get onto it as well. My next recommendation is The Boundless Sublime by Lily Wilkinson. I only recently read this book, but it's been out for a couple of years. Lily is a phenomenal Lover's Way author, and The Boundless Sublime is one of the creepiest cult books I've ever read. After seeing Midsummer, I couldn't stop talking about cults and my need to see more cults in novel, and then my friend Lucy was like, here, take this book. So I did. I read it. I absolutely devoured it in a day, and I still haven't stopped thinking about it. It's about this girl named Ruby who is kind of dealing with grief, and then one day she meets this really like angelic boy who takes her to meet his family, and she kind of feels like it's a bit of a cult, but she goes along with it, and then she starts getting really involved and kind of leaves her old life behind and goes to join this cult. Except it's a cult, so it's not great. If you enjoyed the recent movie Midsummer, or you're looking for another book with a cult, Lily Wilkinson's should definitely be on your list. Next up is Black Ice by Becca Fitzpatrick. Now, I know a lot of people have hated on this book, but I really enjoyed it. Maybe that's just Tina me being so easily pleased by the books that she read, but this book was pretty creepy. It's about two girls who are going driving around the mountains in the snow when they have to stop driving because the snow is just getting too heavy, and they come across two boys who invite them to stay in their cabin, except these young men are a little bit messed up. Never stay with strangers in the woods. What are you doing? This romantic thriller was right up my alley. It's a little bit cheesy and you kind of guess where the story is going at times, but I loved it. I'm super naive when I read books, so I just go along with the story. And of course I love Becca Fitzpatrick from my Hush Hush obsession days. She is the greatest. If you want a little corny Halloween read, definitely read this one. Next I have My Sister Rosa by Justine Lavalestia. This is another creepy book. Love was YA, absolutely amazing. This one came out a few years ago, but it's about this boy who has a sister who's younger than him, and she's just really freaking creepy. The things she does, oh my gosh. If you ever hated your younger sibling and think that they may be a psychopath, you should definitely read this book. I still haven't stopped thinking about this book. Next I have The Mirror Witch by Queen V. Again, I'm just gonna recommend all the Queen V books, not gonna lie. This book was a little slower to get into than her other novels, but it's really atmospheric, and if you love witches and small towns, you should definitely pick this one up. My favorite part about this book was of course the boy who literally like faded into smoke. It was super cool and I just wanted to hug him. He was such a cinnamon roll. But when the children of near this place start disappearing, this boy falls under suspicion, and it's just super creepy and super spooky for the Halloween season. And yeah, it's about a hunt for a witch, and it's just awesome. Next is Hunting Prince Dracula, and the first book and the other books in this series. I just don't have the first one on me, so we're gonna go for the second one. This series is freaking incredible. If you don't know, the first one is called Stalking Jack the Ripper, and it's about this woman My Siri just turned on. I think my room is haunted. Living in like the 1800s or somewhere far behind. And people start dropping dead, and she thinks that it must be Jack the Ripper, so she kind of like tries to find what's going on, and it's just freaking incredible. Each book centers around a different thing, so this one's about Dracula, there's one about Houdini, one's about the devil. Oh my god, I really need to get around to finishing these series because I loved the first two books, and they're perfect for Halloween. Next is Missing Presumed Dead, which is one that I haven't read admittedly, but it just sounds freaking incredible, so I had to add it to this pile. It's about this girl who can touch people and see how they die, not in a creepy way, in a totally consensual way, I hope. And then she meets this ghost who is just full of vengeance and she gets really creeped out, as you do. Don't know anything about this book apart from that, but I've heard it's queer and has angry girls in it, and that's all it takes to sell a book to me. Also ghosts, yes, ghosts are my favorite things in the whole world, so I'm so excited to dive into this book. And that cover is amazing. The next book is What the Woods Keep by Katya de Becerra. This is a phenomenal Lovers YA novel. Again, this is a really complicated book to explain, but it's basically about this girl who goes back to her hometown and this creepy house, and there's like things going on in the forest and her friend is doing creepy things, and it's like, oh my god. Let me just read the back to you because I cannot explain how deeply disturbing this novel is, but like in the best possible way. Hayden's getting ready for college, living in Brooklyn and hanging out with her best friend Del, but now the past is catching up with her. Her mother's mysterious disappearance a decade ago, her father's outlandish theories about a lost supernatural race, and Hayden's own dreams about strange symbols and rituals in the Colorado woods where she grew up. Oh my god, if that isn't just everything you've ever wanted to read this Halloween, it is. Stop lying to yourself. Next up, I have Wilder Girls by Rory Power. While this wasn't my favorite book, it did hit my top 25 list because if you love body horror, this is a book for you. There were some really creepy parts in this novel that I absolutely loved. There's like extra spines and like weird things going on and like things growing out of you. It's just the epitome of an excellently written body horror novel. It's also super queer and I love seeing that representation. It's about this virus called the Tux that puts a school on an island under quarantine, and these girls are doing everything they can to survive and try to escape, but they're not sure if they will ever be the same again or if they can actually get out. Pick this one up. Next I have Not Even Bones, which is easily one of the most disturbing books I've ever read that made me feel physically sick. But in a good way, trust me. This book is about a world where people's bones are sold on the black market, and it's about this girl whose mother participates in that and steals people and takes their bones, and it's super creepy. This book took me on such a wild ride. You get really great descriptions of, you know, cutting people open and taking their bones, and if that's something for you, check it out. Very creepy. My next recommendation is Mercy Point by Anna Snow Extra. I desperately need the second book. Where is it, Anna? I freaking need answers. I need answers in my life. I need to make sure my cinnamon roll characters are okay. But basically, it's about this group of friends who are friends online, and then they discover that their parents are up to something weird. So they all meet up at school and try to like figure out what's going on. And the answer is not what you would expect. It like took a massive turn in the last quarter of this book, and I absolutely loved it. I did not see it coming. I loved the friendship dynamics in this book as well. I loved how attached I was to these characters. Even like 2 years on or something, I'm still thinking about them, and I'm like, Anna, please tell me they're okay. Definitely pick it up if you haven't already. Next up, I have Hotel Ruby by Suzanne Young. This is a book I read quite a few years ago now, but I absolutely loved it. If you love spooky hotels in the middle of nowhere that may or may not be haunted, pick up this book. It's been so long I can barely remember what happened, but it's basically about this girl who goes with her family to this hotel, and it's not really what it quite seems to be, and then when they try to escape they like can't. Just sit on the couch with a nice cup of cocoa and read this book and be thoroughly creeped out. Perfect way to spend your Halloween. Next I have Lady Helen and the Dark Days Club. This is another book I have not read yet, but I've heard phenomenal things, and I was recently at a panel and I believe Astrid Schultz was saying how much she loved this book, so of course had to add it to my pile. This is basically a book about a woman living in the 1800s where there are like demons and creepy things going on in London. I've heard this book is kind of like Stalking Jack the Ripper but with more like demonic entities, so I love that series, so I'm really excited to read this one. I also believe this one is Lovers YA, so of course have to recommend. The second to last book I have here is The Archived by Queen V herself. Again, 3rd recommendation in 25 books. I think that's pretty great. It's also been a while since I read this book, so I can't fully remember what it's about, but let me read you the back blurb. Okay, ready? Imagine a place where the dead rest on shelves like books. If that doesn't make you immediately want to read this book, I don't know what will. This is such an atmospheric read. I absolutely loved it. If you're a fan of Queen V's other work, this is definitely a must read. So yeah, pick it up. And finally, I have Black by Fleur Ferris, which is my favorite book by this Lover's Way queen. She has written so many amazing books and it's super hard to pick my favorite, but I loved Black because it was super creepy, gave me all the Halloween vibes, and it's about a girl running through a forest, among other things. Basically, it's about this girl named Ebony who everyone thinks she's cursed because bad things keep happening to the people around her. It's super creepy and super atmospheric, and I actually finished reading this book while I was out in a foggy forest, just by coincidence. So that definitely added to like the spooky vibes. Take this one on a little reading retreat if you dare, and experience it for yourself in a forest. It was amazing. But that is it, 25 books, we did it, we got through all of them. I hope I added quite a few recommendations to your TBR. Sorry in advance, I know that all of these books sound amazing and you just wanna like go out and buy them all. Just do it, YOLO. But if you've read any of these books, I would love to know what you thought of them. If you've added any in particular to your TBR, do let me know. But that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching and happy Halloween. Bye everyone!